from Your Black World and the Black Business School. I was I woke up this morning and I was thinking about some things that had to do with uh, success. What it takes to be successful. I was talking to a young man that I mentor, and we were talking about decisions that a person has to make um, in order to get what they want out of life, to get where they want to get to. And it made me really think about when I was his age. He's in his early 20s, and I thought about when I was that age and just some of the stuff I went through and some of the tough decisions I had to make. Some of the decisions that were way above my pay grade that I wasn't ready to make. And how you really can make some huge mistakes at that age. Hopefully, in some cases, you are able to grow out of those mistakes. You can learn from them, and it makes you better in the long term. I know my mistakes, most of them did, right? Most of my mistakes that I made, I was able to kind of catapult away from those things and eventually find some kind of success or whatever you want to call it. But then there were some mistakes I made, that you can't reverse, no matter how many years you wait or how much you pray about it or feel bad about it or think about it. Some mistakes you can never overcome. And so, at any rate, we this led me think about just kind of what it takes, to get what you want, out of life. What kind of company you keep, what kind of how can you say this, the mindset that you carry, the way you respond to adversity, all these things that plays a huge part in where you end up. And I can definitely say that, I just had my 45th birthday, and I can definitely say that uh, the mistakes that I made literally, stayed with me for life, either in a good way or a bad way, depending on how I process them. And the good decisions I made stay with me for life. That means that, if the decision I made, for example, to get educated and to get educated at a very high level, stayed with me for a long time. I mean, it's literally allowed me to live the rest of my life off of things that I did when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. And so what I would say to any young person, anybody who's watching or listening, if you're young and you don't make an effort to get as educated as you can, you're probably making a mistake. What you're kind of doing, unfortunately, is you're signing up for various forms of slavery. And I say that because the people who don't make sacrifices when they're young tend to really have to over-sacrifice when they get older to make up for what they lost when they were younger, the opportunities that they threw away. So the worst thing that this society can do to you is to teach you as a black person not to want to educate yourself. You don't want to do that, right? That's not a winning policy. It's not a winning strategy. Even if you're a lazy person, it doesn't make sense for you to be lazy while you're young, because if you're lazy while you're young, then you're going to be having to work extra hard your whole life. So why would you do something now that's going to have to make you work extra hard? I mean, if you're going to be lazy, then go ahead and work hard so you can be lazy for the rest of your life, because you're living off of the work you did when you were young. Very simple math. There's a lot of very simple math in life that can make a big difference. For example, another type of simple math is that it takes just as much energy to learn how to work for somebody and kiss their ass every day as it does to learn how to start your own business and kiss your own ass, right? Everybody has to serve some kind of master. Everybody has some kind of thing that has to control them. So you could have a boss that controls you. If you have a business, your goals might control you. Your goals and your customers, that might become, your boss. And personally, I like answering to customers, answering to my goals and my standards more than I like answering to a white man. So my logic was very simple. The amount of time it takes me, if I'm given thousands of hours of work to work for somebody else, building somebody else's dream, I might as well give that time to build my own dream. And that was the advice I gave to the young brother when I was talking to him. As I said, I've known you for a while. You're a hardworking kid, man. Why would you give all that labor, all that hard labor to a white man? Like, why are you? The reason they give you all them promotions and raises is because they like, man, we're gonna milk this dude. We can make crazy money off of him. Look at how good he is. Look at how hard he works. Look at how many hours he puts in. So if they're gonna pay you, double what you were making before, that probably means that you're worth at least 5 times more than what you're earning. So keep that in mind. As you plan your future and plan your destiny, don't think that being don't think that being in a how can I say this? Um, don't think that being rewarded in white man's business is the best reward you can get for your hard work and your labor and your intelligence and your skill. The best reward you can get is when you work for yourself, because then you can give yourself a raise. Now if you're lazy and you don't work hard, then you probably shouldn't try to work for yourself, because because basically you're gonna end up screwing yourself. I know some people who quit their jobs. They hear what I say. I mean, I go around the country. Every city I go to, I meet people who literally will yell to me from a taxi cab or from a garbage truck or whatever, and I love it. I love it. If you ever get the urge to do it, if you ever see me on the street, never freeze up, never stop and be like, "Is that Dr. Boyce Watkins?" I better not say nothing. Don't do that. Don't do that. I want you to yell it from across the freeway. All the white people on here, I want you to be like, "Dr. Boyce, what's up?" And I'll be like, probably give you a peace sign or something. I try to keep it cool. But in fact, when I was in the Chicago airport, there was a group of black TSA agents, and I don't know if they get to decide which section of the airport they want to work on. But I went through security, and the guy bringing me through was like, "You're Dr. Boyce Watkins." I said, "Yeah, I've been him for a while." And he's like, "Hey, oh man, what's up, man?" And this is in front of all the white people. White people are like, "What the hell's going on?" So he said, "Man, hey, can I get your autograph?" Now this guy's supposed to be frisking me, right? Checking me for security. I'm like, wow, I could really be a security risk right now. But this brother, he's thinking about something else. And then he yells across to a black girl across the way who was also an agent. He said, "Talisha," and she turned. And he goes like. And she was like, so I was taking all these pictures with all the black TSA agents, and it was a feel good moment because I was on my way to Farrakhan's event, the anniversary of the Million Man March. So we were just all feeling extra black that day, and I wasn't even in DC yet. I was actually in Chicago. When I got to DC, there were a whole bunch of other crazy stories I could probably tell you. And I tell you, I loved it. I loved it. I love it. I love the confused look on the white people's faces when they were just like, "Okay, what's happening here?" The Negroes are congregating, and they all seem happy about something. We don't know what it is, and so I would just say, generally speaking, just be yourself. Be yourself. And if you see me, make sure you holler at me. But anyway, okay, so let's hop deeper into this topic as far as like the whole thing with the athletes. Okay, professional athletes going broke. As you know, a very large percentage of professional athletes go broke. I want to say it was like 40%, maybe no, sorry, it was more than 40%. I got to look it up. For NFL players, it tends to be worse than everybody else. Let me see here. Let me look it up. What percentage of athletes go broke? Because I think there was a stat, 78%. Okay, so according to Sports Illustrated, 78% of the athletes go broke. Now, the 538 says that there's a difference between athletes going broke and athletes declaring bankruptcy. And that's really true. Not every person who declares bankruptcy is broke. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think bankruptcy is a death sentence, and it's not. Going broke. Going broke is very different from bankruptcy. A bankruptcy, at the very least, means that you are having a cash flow problem. It means that you might, for example, let's say you got big money coming in 6 months from now, somebody owes you $1 million 6 months from now, and but you owe 10,000. Well, clearly you're worth more than the 10,000, but if you can't get a loan against the million, to kind of get through that temporary setback, then the person that you owe the 10,000 to is going to be like, "No, you need to pay me. I'm gonna force you into bankruptcy," right? And so you might go into bankruptcy for what they call bankruptcy protection. Bankruptcy protection means that you're being protected against your creditors for the amount of time it's going to take for you to repair and for you to restructure your financial situation. So that's when the judge will kind of look through and be like, "Oh, you got $1 million coming in? Okay, you straight. We're just going to protect you from your creditors. Creditors can't ask for no money. We're going to back them off. But I'm going to tell the creditors, look, you're going to get paid." So it's like I'm standing in the middle saying, okay, don't beat them up. Don't beat them up. We're going to get you your money. Just back up. And then you sit this person over here and you say, "Okay, what are you going to do to make sure they get paid?" You follow me? So a person who's bankrupt is not always broke. So don't go for that hype. And I'm thinking about this because I'm about to go teach the Black Wealth Boot Camp in a minute, which you should join, by the way, if you're interested. I think you're going to love it. It's the best. It'll be better than any college class you've ever taken. And if you haven't gone to college, then it'll be better than what you would learn in college anyway. And if you've already gone, you're going to compare the two, and you're going to say, okay, I wish I had taken this in college. That's what everybody says when they go through the Black Wealth Boot Camp. So if you're interested, go visit theBlackWealthBootCamp.com. That's theBlackWealthBootCamp.com. Anyway, with that being said, the other thing I want you to do is, if you are watching this right now, I hope that you'll help spread the gospel. Hit the share button real quick. Share it to your social media page so that other people can benefit from this information. One thing I have found is that when you put people on to what we're talking about every day, it changes their life. I can't tell you how many cities I've gone to where I've heard, I'm talking about dozens of people every week who've said, what this information changed my life. It changed. I quit my job. I'm now getting my finances together. One brother told me this really excited me too. He said, man, he said a couple years ago I was that guy that you were talking about who was sitting on the couch in his drawers every day, smoking weed and playing Xbox. He said, now, man, now my goal this year is to read. I think he said he wanted to read 50 books that year. So he went from a brother who was sitting around smoking weed and watching TV and playing Xbox all day to wanting to read 50 books in a year. And I was truly inspired by this brother's remarks. I really thought that um, you know I really thought that when I heard him say that, I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, this is exactly what I was trying to do. This is exactly what I was trying to do. I really want just young men and women, young people, all people, but our people, to kind of know their potential. And I think that so many of us don't know our potential. We kind of end up, kind of wallowing away in mediocrity because somebody positioned us to be mediocre. And don't let anybody position you to be mediocre. You're meant to be extraordinary. So that means that to be extraordinary, you got to put out extraordinary effort. Extraordinary outcomes come from extraordinary effort. If you want to have an extraordinary life, you can't get up and live an ordinary day. I think that's very important to understand. And if you want to know more about principles like this and ideas like this, we actually have a class in the Black Business School called Black Keys to Greatness, where we talk about these sorts of very issues. Whether it's motivation, goal setting, overcoming obstacles, dealing with animosity, setbacks, etc. There's literally dozens of hours of content where I lay out philosophies and frameworks to help you set goals and to do the things you're seeking to do. Because a lot of us are trapped inside our own spirit. We're trapped inside our own body. We're trapped inside our own existence, in the sense that we know that there's a great person on the inside. We just can't quite let them out, right? And so if you want to know more about the class, the first month of the class is free. So all of our courses are set up as membership programs. So if you go to blackkeystogreatness.com, you can actually get the first month for free. So go to blackkeystogreatness.com. Now, those of you who are watching on social media, for some reason, every now and then the phone will just shut off and I have to start the thread over again. So if you see me, if you ever watch me on Facebook Live and I disappear, just in mid sentence, either try refreshing your page in a couple minutes, because a lot of times I'll just start the feed all over again. But unfortunately, I can't go back into the conversation I already started. I have to start a new one. So I see some of you already coming back, so that's good. So anyway. And the last thing I want to make sure that you know as well is that if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. I just saw somebody comment that they really liked the book, so thank you very much for your kind words. If you want a free e-copy of that book, go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. Now let's talk about these athletes real quick. I know I was kind of talking a little bit. So in a way, I kind of see this time almost like a radio show. People reach out to me and they ask me if I want to, do you want to host a TV show or a radio show? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, because I'd rather talk to people on social media and in this framework, because it allows us to be honest. I don't have to worry about somebody telling me what to say, somebody regulating my words, somebody feeling like I'm too black, somebody get mad because I use profanity, somebody get mad because I'm deviating from what whatever the agreed upon program was. I just like talking to you. The same way a family sits together and you might hear from your dad, or you might hear from your brother, you might hear from your friend. That's what I like to be. I like being your friend, your brother, your dad, whatever it is I am to you at that moment, your teacher, whatever it is I am to you at that moment, I want to be that. I'm committed to that. So anyway, with athletes, I think about athletes going broke. I think about guys I knew, like guys like Antoine Walker. I went to college with Antoine Walker, who played in the NBA for a lot of years, made $110 million. Antoine declared bankruptcy, and it was kind of sad because I feel like Antoine, the amount of money that he threw away, the amount of money that he lost. A lot of that could have been prevented. I don't think Antoine was properly educated on not just financial literacy, but also just educated. Period. I just really didn't feel like he, in terms of critical thinking skill, I got a sense when I knew him at Kentucky that he just wasn't really there. And I also never got any sense that he had any conscientiousness about being black. Unfortunately, but it wasn't his fault because a lot of those basketball players are just they're just well trained Negro horses. I mean, that's what they become. They just really get so bought into what the administration wants them to believe and what they want them to think about and do, and they isolate them. Back then they did. They isolated them so much from the black students that that we didn't have anything in common. We were actually in the middle of the biggest protest on that campus since the 60s, and since that time they haven't I don't think they've had anything that big racially on the University of Kentucky campus since I was on that campus, and we led a protest because a black woman was attacked with a knife by a white student, and we raised holy hell up in that bitch. I mean, we went crazy. We went off on the administration. I was writing for the campus paper at the time, and I was going head to head with the president. Like, look, you got to respect black people, man. What is wrong with you? And so and I remember we were going through all that, and the athletes didn't care. The athletes weren't helping. They didn't, their power. They could have literally made one statement and changed the whole game. They didn't. And the thing was, this is that divide and conquer. They separated the black student body from the black athletes, where they didn't want the black athletes to get involved in this political controversy because they wanted them to focus so they could win another championship. In fact, the reason they tried to cover up, this is at University of Kentucky now, back when I was a grad student. You can probably Google this. But the reason they wanted to cover up the black girls' attack was because they wanted their prize Negroes on the basketball court to win them another championship, where they would get a check for $20 million. Kentucky always had a great basketball program, and so back then we were going to the championship every year. And to this day, Kentucky still goes to the championship every year. It was just like that in the '90s, and I still just remember being so frustrated that the athletes were so lost. I even remember one of the athletes even telling me that the coaches didn't even want them to read my articles, that the coaches had basically discouraged them. They're like, oh, don't read his ideas. That's going to get you in trouble. You need to focus on, on this stuff with the NBA and this, that, and the other. And so effectively what went down at that point was, it's funny, I'm talking to you guys. That was Dr. Claude Anderson, who actually just called me. I need to give him a call back. I love that man. Love that man a lot. He wrote a book called Powernomics, and I want you guys to read that. Powernomics, or Black Labor, White Wealth. If you really want to be educated on wealth from a black standpoint, of course you can read my books as well, but read Dr. Claude Anderson's books, Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth. That man's the truth. There are two male black leaders in this country that I respect immensely at the highest levels, and that would be Dr. Claude Anderson and Minister Louis Farrakhan. Those are just two strong black men who are really saying what we need to hear. Unfortunately, we're still at a stage where our leaders don't say what we need to hear. They say what corporate America tells them to say, or what white people tell them to say. So you need to you need to take that time to recognize real when it comes to who's leading your community. So anyway, so going back to what was I? I was at University of Kentucky basketball. Okay, and I don't want to get into rambling, but what I want. So I remember at that time just kind of feeling like, wow, these guys have so much power, but people put so much energy into muting that power by training them to be docile, by training them to be ignorant, training them to be disconnected from their people, and that's always been like that. If you watch that, there was this movie. I can't remember what it's called, but it was a movie about the brother who won the Heisman, who played for Syracuse, a place I used to teach, another university I was associated with. And I remember in the film, I don't know how accurate this was to life, but there was a scene where he was telling his white coach he wanted to get involved with the civil rights movement. He wanted to get out here and fight along with other black people. And the coach pretty much told him, well, the best way for you to fight is to fight on the field. Do your fighting by playing well. So I'm like, wait, how does playing well represent the civil rights struggle? I don't understand. That's not the same as going through what Dr. King went through. Dr. King wouldn't have had the same impact if he had been a football player. Okay, so that's the kind of nonsense you get taught. And so a lot of times these athletes, when they get detached from their community, they're being set up for being robbed by another community. So you're trained by white folks. in the school system. Excuse me. They're not educating you. They're not preparing you to make good life decisions. They don't care nothing about you. They see you as a cash cow, as an opportunity to make money. You 22 years old. You know, you need a strong black man around you giving you good advice. To be quite frank, you need Dr. Boyce Watkins right there looking the white man in the eye like, okay, now what? How many millions of dollars are me and my son gonna make out of this so we can support our family? Okay, I don't like that contract. In fact, I need to understand what you're doing with this investment money. What you put in? What kind of annuity? Variable? Okay, wait. Okay, tell me like what's his asset allocation right now? I'm serious. Like I'm just thinking about this. I mean, I imagine if I had a son who was going to the NBA or NFL and he suddenly had, $10 million or not 10 million, $2 million a month coming in or $1 million a month. Me and my son, we're gonna have a talk. And what I would probably do with my son, very simply, is I would say something like, "Okay, son, I know you're 21 years old. You think you know everything, but you know that I know better than you do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that's going to benefit you and your children and your grandchildren, your great grandchildren. What we're going to do is this. I'm going to give you 15% of your income, 15%, and you can do whatever you want with it. So that means you got $150,000 a month to blow. In fact, let's make it 20%. Okay, so you're making $1 million a month. You're gonna have $200,000 a month to do whatever you want. You can throw it up at the club. I don't suggest doing that kind of stuff, but whatever. You can go buy video games. You could go buy a Bugatti. You could go buy you a mansion. You can go pay for your girlfriend to have down all gold everything. Whatever it is you want to do at the age of 21, whatever you want to do that makes sense to you, go ahead and do it. But the other 800,000 is going right toward a portfolio that you will never be able to touch. I want you to sign legal rights to me. You're going to treat this like a bill. Sign over the legal rights so that I will be one of the trustees of this money, and you're not going to touch this money for the rest of your life. And by the time, if he did that at that rate, by the time he got done, let's say he's in the NBA for 12 years or something like that, by the time he got done, he would have, hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, there's actually a formula called the present value of an annuity factor. And I'm going to tell you how much money he would probably have after that amount of time. 144 minus 1 divided by 0.01. Okay. All right. So let's see. I said 800,000 a month. So the amount that he would have based on the historical returns of the stock market, if you put that money in mutual funds, is $250 million. So he would have let's say at least between 150 million to $250 million that would sort of rest as an asset for him and his family, based on that 800,000 a month. Now, what I want you to understand is, and Albert Einstein said this. Albert Einstein said that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. He said those who understand it earn it. Those who don't understand it pay it. And so remember, 800,000 a month only adds up to about $115 million. So he would put in 115 million, but he would have $250 million. Now imagine if he took that $250 million and then he got done and said, okay, I got other money. I'm not gonna, let's say he's smart. He starts a business, so he's living off that money. Well, let's say, and he's able to let the $250 million just grow every month or every year. Well, if that $250 million was allowed to grow, let's say for another, let's say 30 years. Let's see. Let me do another calculation here. This is the kind of stuff you learn how to do when you get a PhD in finance. 33, 60, minus 1 divided by 1. So if he let his $250 million just grow, it would turn into, this is in millions. Let me make sure I got this. Yeah, he would be a billionaire by the time he was done. A multi-billionaire, actually. If he did that for 30 years, let's say he started out playing in the NBA at the age of 21, and he put the 800,000 a month to the side every month. Now the thing is, it would have to, the thing is, you got to calculate in the IRS. So I'm not even throwing in taxes. So that's why you got to chop and take a big chunk out of the money. But it's still, the principle remains the same. So he would have hundreds of millions of dollars by the time he was done. But if he just let that money continue to grow, let's say he retires at the age of 33 and he lets the money grow until he's 63. Well, by the time he's 63, he's a multi-billionaire. He's literally got at least $3 or $4 billion in the bank, especially if he puts it in a tax-deferred kind of investment. So basically, what happens here is because of what he did in his 20s, he would then be able to take care of his children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and great great grandchildren. He would have built an economic empire. And that's what people are missing when they think about an athlete going broke like an Antoine Walker. They don't understand that he didn't just throw away his own money. He threw away money that belonged to his children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. They're going to start off in poverty or close to it because he threw away all the seeds. It's like if a farmer throws away the seeds, then he's not just throwing away the weight of the seed. He's throwing away everything the seed would have become. So the harvest is what you're losing. The things you have not yet seen is what you're losing. If I have to give away $110 million, I'm not losing $110 million. I'm losing billions of dollars that $110 million would have become if I had invested it the right way. Money is supposed to grow like a plant. And so, and that's why Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world, because I could literally show you mathematically. I actually have a lecture on this in the Black Business School if you want to go check it out at the blackbusinessschool.com. I could show you how you could take the amount of money somebody spends on a Happy Meal, and if they save that money over 40 years, say for themselves or for their children, that Happy Meal money could become $500,000. That's where wealth comes from. You see, a lot of people think that, um, that wealth is something that you kind of just is get rich quick, or it's somehow connected to how big your paycheck is, and those things play a part. But most wealth, most real wealth, major wealth, I'm talking about, inherited big family wealth and economic empires, comes from intergenerational placement of money, where you're putting your money in a position where it's set up to grow. That's how universities fund themselves. They fund themselves with endowments. What's an endowment? An endowment is just a big pile of money that earns interest, and they're living off that interest, and they're taking a little bit out or a little whatever, and if they set the endowment up right, the endowment will even grow faster than the amount being taken out of it. So your endowment is naturally going to grow over time. Your endowment might be $1 billion in one generation and become 5 billion in the next, because you got people managing the money and making sure that it's growing faster than what you're taking out. So you can almost live off this forever. It's like having farmland. An endowment, a stack of capital, is like farmland, where you think about farmland where you can just farm the land and you can just eat off the land forever. Well, okay, I see Amon saying they still can't hear you, bro. I hope I hope you're not saying that literally, like they literally can't hear me. But I think you were saying, meaning you meant something else. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. But like farmland, you have that patch of land. Your family can eat off that land forever. So imagine if somebody takes that land, they sell it. Well, yeah, somebody's gonna eat off that money for one generation, for a little while, right? Let's say they sell the land and they spend the money. Well, then that means you've taken something that could have fed several generations, and you just fed one. You just fed yourself, and that's it. So, long story short, I think a lot of the athletes go broke because we don't sort of, go back to the basics. And this ain't rocket science. This is just simple recommendations in case you know anybody who is, the prize athlete in their family and is about to go off and make $1 trillion in the NBA or the NFL. Make sure that they understand at least, the importance of knowing basic financial literacy. For example, we got a wealth building program for kids. It doesn't cost that much, at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That program is set up in such a way that when your child gets through that, they'll have a financial literacy level that exceeds the average college senior. And I'm not joking, because financial literacy in America is really low. It's not that high. So it's not that hard to train somebody to know what, to know what they need to know in order to make good, sound financial decisions. Because then discipline kind of kicks in, right? Because you can know what to do, you can have all the resources, but if you don't have the right mindset, then it's not going to matter. If you have an overly compulsive mindset that's built on consumption and just throwing it up and buying the fancy this and fancy that, then you might have a problem in keeping your money, even if you know what you need to do. And so if you have, let's say, an athlete that goes into the NBA, NFL, they've been educated at a decent level. They have a decent amount of discipline and foresight. They can see, what the future, is supposed to look like. Also, good mentors. You see, one of the problems is a lot of these guys that go into the NBA and NFL don't have fathers, or they don't have strong fathers that know what to tell them in terms of what they need to do. So they end up making the decisions that a lot of 22, 23 year olds will make. I mean, if I was 22, I mean, even as much as I know now, if you gave me 500,000, $1 million a month at the age of 22, I would have acted a complete ass. I would literally think that I was the king of the earth and that I could never go broke. And so I'm not gonna lie, I definitely have to admit, like, I think just at that age, the maturity level ain't there. You need a mentor. You need somebody that's gonna control what you do with that money. In fact, another even more extreme example could be. I told you earlier what would happen if I had a son and I told him, look, you can have 20% of your money to do what you want. The other 80% is going to go into trust. Let's flip it around. Let's say that he wanted to really act a fool with his money, and he spent 80% of his money. And then I would say a smart young guy going, making that kind of money would sign a contract. They gave, say 10 to 20% of his income to somebody that he really trusted, or to a trust, period, that was managed properly, that he wasn't going to have access to for another, say, 20, 25 years. That person right there would be a multi millionaire by the time they were done. In fact, I could do the math again. Let me do the math. Let me see. So let's say that again, let's do the 12-year analogy. 12 years, 12 years, a $40 million slave. All right. So for 12 years, you in the NBA, NFL, cooning for the team owners and dribbling basketballs or whatever, so you can make your money. All right. So let's say you're making $1 million a month, and let's say that you take 200K of that and you put it into some sort of tax deferred kind of plan. So you're not even worried about taxes at this point, because you don't have to, you can put it in a place where you don't have to pay taxes right now. So let's say, and actually I have to double check to make sure that would actually be totally feasible. But I just want you to get the point. I don't want you to worry about the details for now. So basically, let's see, 12 years, 1244. Okay, I'm doing the math again. This is the present value or future value of an annuity formula. That's what it's called. I used to teach this to my students when I taught finance at Syracuse. So if you did that and you had 200K a month, then by the time you were done, he would have. So just by saving 20%. Now think about this. This is a guy who is a top-notch NBA player making $12 million a year, which actually a lot of players make more than that. And he puts just 20% of his gross income into an investment vehicle that gives him the average return on mutual funds throughout history. By the time he got done, even if he was spending his money like a fool, I'm talking about throwing away $800,000 a month. So that makes you a fool if you're throwing away that much money, throwing away $10 million a year. He was still, by the time he got done, have $63 million in the bank. He would have $63 million in wealth. That's a lot of money. You can build empires off of that. So let's say then he got done and he took the $63 million. He didn't actually touch that. Let's say he was disciplined and he had, let's say that he had, some other income somewhere else. So he decided, I'm not gonna mess with that money. I want that for my kids and my grandkids, and I want to do this. And let's say he leaves that money in for another 30 years. Let me think in my head. Okay, 30 years. All right. So you have to forgive me. I just woke up. So if he left that money in the bank, then by the time he got done, before he paid Uncle Sam, he would have $2.3 billion. $2.3 billion. So literally, an athlete who totally, shit away 80% of his money, excuse my French, literally threw away 80%. I'm talking about spent like a complete fool, could still be a billionaire by the time he left this earth. He would still be able to have enough money to establish a corporate entity that could last for the next 500, 600 years. You see, the thing about our families in terms of wealth building is that black people, we got to start thinking like churches. The Catholic Church, for example, the Catholic Church will always kick you in the ass in a dispute, especially if it's in court. Let me tell you why they always kick your ass. Because the Catholic Church does not think in terms of individuals or even in terms of a set point in time. They think in terms of the collective, and they're thinking in terms of centuries. they're not thinking about how this is going to play out in the next 2 or 3 years or the next decade. They're thinking, how's this going to play out 500 years from now? So you're not going to win. If you go to battle with them in court, you're not going to win because you're dealing with something that's going to live forever. So when you think about your family empire as a person of color, you got to think in terms of centuries. How's my family gonna, how's this gonna play out for my family 3 or 400 years from now? How are we going to, not so much. Hold on, give me a second. This thing went out. So you're not you're not thinking to yourself, okay, how's this gonna work out for me and mine in the here and now? You want to be thinking, how's this gonna play out, over several generations, as and actually a more a simpler way to kind of describe this or phenomenon of this idea is Damon Dash even talks about, I'm not hustling for my first name, I'm hustling for my last name, and he says it all the time. And so that's what I encourage you to do. Don't hustle for your first name, hustle for your last name, hustle for your empire. Build a real empire, not some Lee Daniels shit you see on TV. I'm talking about a real family empire where you lay the foundation for your children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren. Because all it takes is somebody in one generation who puts out extraordinary effort, and they then set the pace for everything else. They then set the pace and the standard for the rest of the family. And when you become successful, other people will look at you and they're going to want to be like you. Relatives are going to want advice from you. They're going to want to tell people about you. They're going to want to emulate you. And so, so just be smart with it. Let's see here. So Lisa Jackson mentions that Prince couldn't even buy his own catalog. Michael Jackson caught a hell from Sony. Yeah, you're gonna catch hell if you get some money, you get some wealth, you build any power. You always gonna catch hell. Just like if you win an NBA championship, you're gonna catch hell because the other teams are gonna do everything in their power to beat you. If you ever get anything that's worth having, you're gonna catch hell for that. You're gonna have a fight on your hands. Don't ever think you can accumulate wealth and not have somebody come and try to take it. That's why you got all these lawyers and managers and whatever and financial advisors that are robbing athletes because they're like, here's a person sitting on a mountain of money and they ain't got no goddamn sense. They don't have any education. They don't have any financial literacy. When somebody has an empire and they can't defend it, it will always be taken. So stop deluding yourself that somehow complaining about the horrible things white people do to you are going to stop because you complain about it. Stop thinking that somehow we're going to be better off by just complaining about how competitive the world is and how nasty people act toward us when we get something. You think they hate your black ass now? Wait till you get some education and some wealth. They're going to come out and they're going to try to take you out from day one. They're going to come after your children from day one. And if you can't protect all of that, then you're going to lose it. And I hate saying it that way, but life is like that. I mean, really, even if you watch a show like Game of Thrones, look at how horribly crazy those people act on that show. The horrible things they do to each other. It kind of reminds you, and it's really true. I mean, I know it's a show. It's just TV, but it kind of reminds you that life is not fair. Life is dirty. Life is cruel. You got to be ready for that. And I think that for us as black people, because we've been trained to be so docile and so polite and so so we're constantly seeking this sort of validation and affirmation from white folks. We get mad when people play dirty. We don't get it. It hurts our feelings. It hurts our self-esteem. But you can't be in the middle of a war and let the other soldiers on the other side hurt your feelings. If they see that they can get you that easily, or then they really gonna drop the pain on you because they're gonna be like, oh, this person's not even ready to fight. By the way, if you're watching online, do this favor for me real quick. Share this feed to your personal Facebook page if you think anybody can benefit from this information. Also, don't forget you can get a free copy of my ebook, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, by visiting drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. And I gotta run. I just got a phone call from somebody I need to call back before I start the Black Wealth Bootcamp this morning. So as much as I enjoy sitting and talking to you guys, in case you haven't noticed, anybody who's watching on my YouTube channel, you'll kind of notice that sometimes my topical discussion sometimes becomes more conversational because I've actually realized how much I enjoy just kind of talking to you guys in this framework. And somebody had offered me a radio show, and they were like, "Oh, you should be on the radio. You have followers, and what you're saying makes sense." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't really want to work for nobody, and I don't want to deal with corporate media. I don't want to have to spend 3 or 4 hours a day on the radio because I got work to do." So I said, you know what? I forget. We reach millions of people every week. So why don't we just do something right here where you guys can talk to me right here? But also, I hope that you'll consider coming and taking a class with us at the blackbusinessschool.com. The class I really love. I love Black Keys to Greatness because it's a class that's focused on all the little principles that go behind achieving goals and becoming who you want to be. And so and I find and we have over 150 students in the class. They love it. You can get the first month free. You can go to blackkeystogreatness.com. That's blackkeystogreatness.com. So go check that out. And it's Sunny Rain said, no radio. I like it when you do these videos. Yeah, I like it too, Sunny. I really do. And I owe you guys everything, and I appreciate your support, because without you, I would be nothing. I was in the same frustrating position that many of you are in, where I remember being really irritated, by my oppressors, the people who controlled my life with the job that I had. And I just said, I got to get out of here. And I said, I think I'm gonna try to go back to my people and see what I can build there, and maybe the people will support it and be a part of it. And also at the same time, I owe you support, so that's why I want to make sure I share with you, information, talk to you, connect with you. And also, if you have business or anything that you're trying to build and promote, first of all, the blackbusinessschool.com is set up to be a low cost, high quality alternative to a university education. So I would hope that and I can only say that this is what I would do. I would hope that rather than say spending tens of thousands of dollars going back to school, you would just consider the Black Business School as a supplement to your education. Most of the classes are less than $100 a month, and then they're designed as membership programs. You're actually learning from Black people that you're not going to get a chance to learn from on college campuses. Most college campuses don't have any Black professors. Most college campuses don't have professors who actually have experience building things. They also don't understand the Black experience the way we do. And so what we do is we shift business models to make them more applicable to the real things that Black people are faced with. Because a lot of the stuff that you learn in business schools, and I know this because I taught in business schools for 20 something years, a lot of stuff you learn just really isn't beneficial to your experience as a person of color. In fact, I just read a story the other day that was saying that a lot of corporations are now reducing significantly their campus hiring. So the jobs that were disappearing for college graduates are actually disappearing even more. And corporations aren't even spending the money going to campuses. And so that also means that there's a decline in quality across the board, or a decline in opportunity, where when they're not coming to campus, that also means that the pay is probably lower when you get the job. Your chances of being fired are higher. So it's a much more unstable economic environment. So what ultimately has to occur, in my opinion, is you want to always make sure you have a plan B. For Black people, entrepreneurship is the new MBA. Let me say it again. Entrepreneurship is the new MBA. What does that mean? That means that if I'm a Black person and I'm trying to really know business, I'm trying to really prepare myself economically for the future, I'm not trying to go and just get some certification per se. I need the ultimate certification. The ultimate certification is knowing how to run a business, knowing how to be a good entrepreneur, and really training yourself well on that. Because when you learn that, you know how to go out and get money. You know how to make certain things happen. You're not waiting for somebody to give you a job in order for you to feed your family. In fact, in my own experience, I remember when I became a professor, every professor was trying to get tenure. Tenure is what professors get after you spend a few years. They decide they like you and they want to keep you. So it's a lifetime job, and a lot of people are looking for that job security. So I almost call it welfare for smart people, because that's kind of what it is. It means you get paid no matter what you do, no matter how horrible of a professor you are. I've seen professors literally have sex with students and do all kinds of stuff. They can't lose a job because they got tenure. But anyway, I remember thinking, okay, so everybody's sacrificing everything to get this financial security. They're muting their own voice. They're cooning, for the administration. They're saying they believe things they don't actually believe. They're violating their own integrity. They're not taking a stand on important issues in the Black community. Also, they can get this thing called tenure. And what's unfortunate is that a lot of Black people get duped into this, and they give up everything in order to get this promotion, and then the promotion never comes. So at the end, you end up feeling like the $2 prostitute who didn't even get the $2 at the end of the sex, right? And so, but then the thing I remember thinking to myself was, I was like, okay, so people are sacrificing everything to get this financial security from this university that they may not even like, who may not even like them. And I said, well, maybe there are other ways to get financial security. Maybe if I really became a good entrepreneur and learned how to make money, I could make enough money where I have financial security, which would pretty much achieve the same objective, right? And then if I built a good online infrastructure that allowed me to still teach people, I'd be able to teach my own people. I want to teach people who want to learn, not a bunch of little rich white kids who don't even like me. I mean, I didn't get along with those white kids. I'm a Southern black man. You're not gonna disrespect me in my classroom. I have a certain type of authority I'm going to maintain. We're going to have discipline. Those kids weren't ready for that. They was a bunch of little. Unfortunately, they were smart. Some of them were very, very smart, but a lot of them were future alcoholics. I mean, some of the ways, the stuff they did on that campus, I was like, if you were my child, I would kick you in your ass and hope the police come and arrest you. And I'm not bailing you out of jail. So that's the background I came from, right? So it didn't work. It just didn't work. So the beautiful thing though is that now I'm able to make enough money to do what I got to do, pay my staff, feed my family. But not only am I just feeding my own family, I'm feeding other people's families, which makes me a greater asset to my community. And then on top of that, I'm not teaching those little white kids who don't want to hear from me. I'm teaching black people who love me. So it's a wonderful life. If I could live this life for the next 40 years and be as old as reach the age of Minister Farrakhan and beyond, and just do this for the next several decades, I would be happy as a lark. I could die tomorrow and be happy with the life that I've had at this point. So that's what you want to aim for. You want to aim for that ultimate reward. The ultimate reward in life is happiness. It's not money. It's not status. It's not power. It's not influence. It's not fame. It's not whatever. It's happiness. Find your happiness. And if you ain't found it, go look for it. It's out there. You just got to learn how to find where the buried treasure is. So I'm about to get out of here. Don't forget, go get your free ebook. It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. You're going to love the book. Have your kids read it too. Read it with your family. Have your whole family. Give everybody in your family, all your friends, anybody you care about, give them a copy of the book. You can get a free e-copy at drboycewatkins.net. I want you to share it far and wide. I want everybody reading this stuff because this book was something that came from my soul. It's not a long read. It won't take you more than a day to read it, but it really lays out what I think is a very simple paradigm for what our community can do in the next generation if we plant the seeds right now. I did a forum on this very same topic with Minister Louis Farrakhan back in 2013. That's when I defined the idea. So me and the minister did a 2.5-hour forum in Chicago, which was amazing. I hope you guys get to see it one day, but because the video's online. But anyway, we talked about these 4 issues: wealth, education, family, and community, and how we can build. So I hope you'll go take a look at it. I'm giving it away for free to you right now. First of all, out of respect for you and appreciation, but second of all, because I really need you to read it. I really want you to read it, and I guarantee you when you get done, you won't be the same person after you read it. And because I want you to understand that you can do this, you can overcome this. They say we shall overcome. No, we are going to overcome, and ain't nothing going to stop us from overcoming. So go be determined, be strong, be faithful, don't be afraid, and have a wonderful day. I'm about to get out of here. I got to go teach the Black Wealth Boot Camp right now, and it's great talking to you guys. Have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.